The 100 might be over, but there's still plenty of short format cricket out there. So I'm Tom, joined by Rich, and this is our World of White Ball Cricket Roundup. Rich, how you doing? How are you recovering following the end of the 100?
I'm doing very well because there's been a tremendous amount of cricket in the last week, and I've been watching a great deal of it. So I'm very excited to chat about it now with you.
Yeah, it feels quite a long time ago somehow that we were dancing along with James Vince at Lord's. But I've been enjoying a lot of the cricket that's been on this week. So I think we've got a fair amount to get on with. Let's have a go with it. But before I move us off the 100 straight away, I thought I might show some of the numbers that came out of the tournament. So
please, let's do, because Tom Harrison is very keen on metrics, as we know. At the ECB.
Tom Harrison, chair of the ECB.
Yeah. So let's talk metrics.
Well, I don't know how he's made these metrics up. If he's done it personally, well, congratulations. But some interesting numbers coming out of it, and the ones I guess I like are things like 19% of all of the tickets going to kids.
Yeah, I'm wondering where they got their parents' credit card details from, but fair enough. If that's what you're going to steal your credit card for, then I'm all for it. Going to the cricket.
I think that's something called Go Henry now, Rich. They've all got those cards,
Yeah, I think out of that 34 million views, I think 33 million was our video of the Birmingham Phoenix women's team.
Yeah, not for very long for most of them, but they've done all right, that video. 55% of the ticket buyers for the 100 were new to cricket. I think that's an interesting one. I don't know how they've measured that at all, but I guess that ultimately is the metric that they really care about. Is the tournament bringing new people to it? 55% sounds a big number for me.
It does, and I think the proof is in the pudding on what we're about to talk about. In that, the 100 is supposed to be the gateway into cricket. It's supposed to be exposing it to new audiences who wouldn't necessarily otherwise have come to the games. But it doesn't just stop there. The idea is that if you are interested in the 100 and you enjoy it, that you then go on and follow other ECB competitions like the County Championship, like Test cricket, but importantly, like the T20 Blast that we're going to chat about now.
Yeah, and I suppose we will only see the results of this in 2, 3, 4 years' time. But I think that for me, those numbers look reasonably successful. So, job done for now. Let's see where it goes from now. I suppose the common theme that people want to say is that the 100's women's competition was the real success, given the record attendances, given the growth that appears to be enabling. So let's start with our roundup of white ball generally. Have a look at the forthcoming New Zealand women's tour of England, which is coming up. First game on Wednesday.
Yeah. Should be exciting. I think that true equality is that we will provide the same level of low-level analysis of the England women's team as we would of England's men's team, and the same knee-jerk reaction of why is she not in the squad? The news this week was that Maya Bouchier and Charlotte Dean got called into the squad. Yeah. I think in both cases well deserved. Maya Bouchier adds some power to the middle order, and Charlotte Dean was very impressive, bowling for the London Spirits. Very controlled right arm off break, offers something a little bit different to that squad. Unfortunately, the news then was that both of them have been close contacts of a positive COVID case, and so therefore won't be involved in that initial game. But overall, looks a pretty strong squad. What do you reckon, Tom?
Yeah, I like the look of it. I think they are rewarding some of the form that's come off the 100. Maybe that'll bring a new audience along, as we said about then. You want to see that sort of pull through. I like the fact that Tash Farrant is there, going to be hopefully actually starting the game on Wednesday and carrying on with that form, and Emma Lamb as well back in the setup as well. So clearly the big names are still there. Clearly you still expect Sophie Eccleston, Heather Knight, and Nat Siver to be at the forefront of the team. But that could be a really interesting series. And as I say, the first game on Wednesday, we'll see.
Yeah, we didn't see many of the Kiwi players involved in the 100. They chose to take a bit more time out of the game, preparing for the World Cup next February, that hopefully goes ahead, COVID permitting. So yeah, it should be a fascinating series. My only complaint would be that a lot of the games are taking place again at the minor grounds. We've had such a bump in attendances because of the 100. Why not put one of those games between two of the bigger nations in women's cricket at one of our marquee grounds?
Yeah, or you might have said, why didn't free-to-air pick up some of the rights, maybe to show a game or two, which they haven't appeared to have done.
Yeah, exactly.
Might have been a good way of capitalising. Talking of cricket behind a paywall, the Vitality Blast is back, but not on its YouTube streams that it was on previously. So with fans able to get to the grounds, the quarterfinals have been held over the last week and threw up some interesting results. The first,
just before you go on that, just a point there that it is a big emphasis. Let's get cricket on free-to-air TV, but for all that people criticise them, Sky Sports do a good job of showing the cricket and have done over the years, and they have done a good job promoting county cricket. A lot of newspapers in this country who are forever sort of attacking the ECB for not promoting county cricket don't deem it suitable to cover in their sports pages. But Sky Sports actually do put a lot of these games up, and they put each of these quarterfinals in a prime time slot in the football season. So I think that yes, free-to-air television is a big argument, but let's not hammer Sky Sports on this one. I absolutely put them in the right spot.
I'm not knocking Sky Sports' coverage. Generally, of course, I enjoy it, and I pay the money for it. So there you go. What else can I say? What you could ask about is whether Headingley being used for the test and then the quarterfinal clashing was also helpful, because obviously that first quarterfinal, which was Yorkshire Sussex, played up at Durham in front of a pretty sparse crowd at a neutral ground. But it was a good game.
It was a good game, wasn't it? And I said to you, I think I sent you a message shortly beforehand, because the Sussex Sharks bowling lineup was essentially three Musketeers plus D'Artagnan as Rashid Khan, with Garton, Mills and Jordan coming in.
By Musketeers, you mean Southern Brave types?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they've been the standout performers of that. And you thought, that looks such a good bowling lineup. How are Yorkshire going to get anywhere near a decent title? But in fact, it was sort of, it flipped the other way around. The Vikings batted first, put up a good total. And I think for 90% of that game, looked in the box seat.
Yeah, it was a really decent total from Yorkshire, as you say. And Tymmal Mills taking three, absolutely carried on his form, but someone like George Garton really didn't carry on that form, and I didn't think that was a particularly good performance from him. So, when the Sussex lads came out to bat, it looked like a bit of a swan song for Phil Salt for a bit. Obviously, he's announced this week that he's off, leaving Sussex for Lancashire, isn't it, for him?
Yeah. Of course. I mean, having spent a month with the originals, I wonder how he got tempted.
That's right. Snapped up from the back of the dressing room, perhaps. But actually, when it all came down to it, it was Rashid Khan, of course, with the bat.
My question for you here, Tom, is that I mean, Rashid Khan's innings was absolutely fantastic. I think it was 20 odd off 9 balls to take the Sussex Sharks home. The guy's still in his early 20s. He's just getting better and better with the bat. How good can this guy get as an all-rounder?
Well, I think he thinks he's an absolute genuine all-rounder, and I tend to agree off the back of that performance. It was quoted, I think, after the game saying, "Thank you, Sussex, for actually batting me up." Because we saw it repeatedly when he was playing for the Trent Rockets, batting down at 8, and getting a half dozen balls or so at best, and still hitting a hatful of boundaries there. So I think he can absolutely become a genuine all-rounder. I think that he isn't ever going to have a refined batting style. I don't think that's his game. It's an absolute hit it as hard you can style. But in the short format, why not? Let's see him throwing up the order a few times and see how he gets on.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing franchise cricket around the world. He's playing for the best coaches. He's playing alongside some tremendous players. Yeah, I see no reason why he can't get better and better. And it was a tremendous effort from him on Monday night to get the Sharks home. Sorry, Tuesday night.
Well, yeah, and the next day, Wednesday, clearly, obviously, there I shown a picture of Rashid Khan celebrating bowling and then talked about his batting. So here, how about this then? For a picture of Liam Dawson batting, when I'm going to talk about his bowling. This is a surprise result.
Yeah, I mean, this had strong whiffs, didn't it, again, of Trent Rockets v Southern Brave from the eliminator of the 100 in terms of Notts versus Hampshire.
Yeah.
Again, you thought that Hampshire had just not got enough when they got 125. Vince himself only got 6. Limited effort, elsewhere. And, again, similar to the first game, 75% of the way through the innings, you thought there's only one team winning this, but somehow the Hawks managed to pull it out of the bag.
Yeah, so Outlaws, I think, was 61 for 1 in response, and it was just an absolute cakewalk. But got them all out. And as I say, Liam Dawson spun them up a treat with, a 3 wickets, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, indeed. And again, once we think about Trent Bridge as being this sort of bowler's graveyard, but we've seen a number of times this summer, low scores being defended out there. So there is something in there. And especially under pressure in a tense run chase, the Outlaws didn't have an answer to that sort of spin stranglehold that the Hawks put on them.
Could Liam Dawson make his way into the T20 World Cup yet?
Yeah, of course. He's got franchise cricket around the world. I thought Mason Crane bowled particularly well in that game as well. And, also, Brad Wheel, particularly good at the end, under pressure situation. Because even though they were, 9 down, they only needed 3 or 4 off the last over, but he managed to keep them down and take the wicket. So, some impressive bowling at the back end by the Hawks.
That's not a bad habit to have from Brad Wheel. Clearly... Most of my interest in the week was spent watching the Somerset-Lancashire game on the Thursday it was. And that was another, big scoring, highly exciting game, but less close, I would suggest. And actually a pretty decent chase from Somerset in the end. What are you laughing at?
less close. You say that after the fact with no fingernails left. I
felt fully in control all along. Tom Abel hitting 60-odd. That happens every time. Lammonby, Smead chipping in.
I mean, it looks like a decent score, but I think 184 is just about par at Hyderabad. I mean, it's a great batting wicket down there. It was a lovely evening down at Taunton. The kind of evening where you thought you really want to be in the ground because it was just such a beautiful sight. And Lancs, as I said, the key there is 9 down. If you're 9 down in an innings, it suggests that you've gone a bit wrong along the way. And Somerset lost some wickets early, but Tom Abel, he came in for the last game of the 100 for the Phoenix, but has been recovering from injury. Perhaps better known for his red ball form. Lammonby as well. He's been a bit inconsistent, but between them, they put together a hell of a partnership and saw Somerset home.
Yeah, good to see Tom Abel coming back from that injury. And he's got his BPL contract as well. So I think there's something for him to work on there. And I think a few canny teams might have another look at him next year for some white ball action. And the last one of the games was a make weight, should we call it? No, Kent for yourself. I told you just before Birmingham went in, I told you that ultimately Kent would absolutely walk that game. And I don't think you believed me, did you?
I think it's a similar thing of having been through 4 quarterfinals, losing. It's been 2009 since Kent made finals day, and knowing that the past score at Canterbury this year was 180, and seeing the Spitfires get up to 162. Watching it was clear it wasn't a 180 wicket. There was a tackiness in it. It was stopping in the pitch. You saw early on Chris Wokes getting Zach Crawley caught a short leg off one that just spooned off the bat. Very mature innings from Danny Bell-Drummond. Billings played well as well. He got a massive life of a missed stumping off Jake Lintop. If that gets taken, you don't know how the game goes differently. But, they get themselves up to 162. And then the bowling lineup at that point with Adam Milne, Case Ahmed, Fred Clarkson, Matt Milne, all guys who sort of stepped up in the last few weeks in 100 as well. Just a quality bowling lineup. And actually, to be fair, that 141 is largely a result of Jake Lintop's 40 off 20 at the end in a losing cause. It was more comprehensive than that, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it did feel pretty comfortable. Obviously, Jake Lintop can take that across to the Caribbean now. We'll perhaps we'll talk about the Caribbean Premier League in a minute. But before we, unless there's any other business on the Vitality Blast,
well, let's touch on finals day briefly because it's going to be Kent v Sussex and then Somerset v Hampshire. We don't know the order of it.
We do. Is the Hampshire-Somerset game first?
Okay. So how do you see that playing out?
I'd fancy Somerset to get to the final. But, what do I know? Can I just remind everyone who's watching and listening, when we got when we got to the show that we did on the 100 just before the finals and the semi-final of that, we had between us every chance to name the winners of the 100, both the men's and women's, and between us for 4 guesses and only 6 teams involved. We got 0 responses correct. So we are terrible.
Well, to be fair, I didn't want the Oval Invincibles to win. There's nothing to do with whether I thought they would win or not. I didn't want them to win. Again, with this one, difficult because I think Kent v Sussex is such a tight game.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the first time ever that all 4 teams have come from the South Division, and I think you can make a decent argument for any 2 teams to make the final. It should be a really good finals day, actually. Very exciting.
Yeah. It will be a good day, clearly, always is. And, one factor that might make a difference for Sussex is Rashid Khan clearly has played his last of English domestic cricket this year, and so off he goes. We also had another round of the Charlotte Edward Cup this week. I don't know how much of that you saw, but clearly then the final round of those games is tomorrow. So I thought we might just have a quick look at the table and see how they're shaping up for their finals day as well. Any comments on them?
Yeah, so again, this is my very bizarre relationship with women's regional cricket in that I'm a huge fan of the South East Stars. I like the South East Stars because they are a genuine Kent-Surrey collaboration, whereas the Oval Invincibles are dominated by Surrey. So I'm fully behind the South East Stars. They are top of the pile after a fantastic win over the Vipers yesterday. Alice Capsey again impressing. The Vipers didn't have Lauren.
It was a half century and took 2 wickets for 9 runs as well for Alice.
Yeah, and again, if we were going to go back to the England squad, 17-year-old Alice Capsey, yes, you don't want to put too much pressure on her, but has she not done enough to be part of that squad? But we're going through to a full list of fixtures tomorrow as we record this on a Sunday night. The Sparks still have a chance of qualifying, as do the Thunder. The Thunder need to beat the Diamonds and hope that the Storm lose to the Sunrisers. The Lightning have been pretty poor throughout. Slightly odd setup to this tournament. So the top team qualifies directly for the final, much like the 100. And then the second 2 will play an eliminator. So you'd have thought the top team will be either the Stars or the Vipers, and then the eliminated team will be from the Storm. The Storm if they win. But it's still all to play for tomorrow, so it should be interesting. You'll also see there's an intricacy of the bonus point in the Charlotte Edwards Cup. That is awarded if you have a run rate 1.25 times or higher than your opponent in the game. So the Vipers have done quite well out of that. 3 quite comprehensive wins means they have 15 points, even though they have a win less than the Stars. But, we're looking forward to that. And finals day will be on the 5th at the Ageas Bowl.
Yeah. And if you haven't been following Rich there, don't worry, neither have I. But what I have taken for the table, and enjoyed yesterday, actually, was the draw, the tied game between the Thunder and the Sunrisers. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, I did. They needed, it was 9 off the last 2 overs. Yeah. Friend of the show, Kate Cross, bowled a tremendous over, and then Hannah Jones. Yeah, it was 1 needed off the last 3 balls, and she managed to close it out. One other shout out on Central Sparks last Wednesday, Marie Kelly. She only played a couple of games in the 100 tournament, but she scored 100 not out in a successful run chase there. So very impressive innings from her last week.
It really was. So, those games tomorrow and the finals, I think, are in end of next week, aren't they?
5th of September, I think, the Ageas Bowl.
Thank you very much. And then, obviously, the big world setting white ball tournament, I don't know if that makes sense, currently ongoing is the Caribbean Premier League. What are your opinions of the Caribbean Premier League?
I like any white ball cricket, to be honest with you. I'm intrigued by it. I don't like the format. So 6 teams, 4 qualifying for the semi-finals means that a lot of the group stage isn't worth an awful lot. And it would appear that the populace of the Caribbean agree with me on that in terms of the attendance.
Well, before you're too harsh, it's being hosted all of the games at St Kitts and Nevis this time. The ground holds 8,000, and the population of St Kitts is 32,000. Are you expecting a quarter of the population to go and watch 3 white ball games a day?
Yes.
That seems unfair.
But I think it rotates around. I think the initial round of games is at St Kitts, and it's going to go to some other grounds as we go through the.
No, it's all at St Kitts and Nevis, this tournament, in the same way that last year's was, I want to say, St Lucia.
Okay, fair enough.
So yeah, they just do the lot.
Yeah, well, I stand corrected. They're holding their powder for the latter stages. But I mean, you enjoyed Wahab Riaz's spell the other day.
It was generous, to say the least. And I think I'm taking under my wing the St. Lucia Kings, who are not a successful franchise, so therefore absolutely fit my normal mould of supporting just about the worst team going. But, you know, they, against the Jamaica Talawars, third line there, they offered up some of the most generous bowling I think I've ever seen. And Andre Russell duly obliged, and they smashed 255 against them. It was absolutely glorious. Wahab Riaz, 3 overs for 61. But in his defence, came back today, and that was the earlier game today. St. Lucia Kings saw off the Trinbago Knight Riders, despite the best efforts at the end there. Actually, it was Wahab Riaz took the last over and actually just about kept them out.
Fantastic. I mean, I remember a month ago being vaguely critical about the Trent Rockets women opening up with Rachel Priest and Sammy Jo Johnson and saying they weren't the most mobile pair between the wickets. And then I saw Raheem Cornwall striding out to bat to open the batting for the St. Lucia Kings. I thought, not too many quick singles here. But there's so many good players involved in this tournament. I think that's one of the big takeaways for me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's more about the West Indian players that I want to see in this tournament, actually, rather than the overseas, a lot of whom we're familiar with, a lot of whom have actually come across from the 100. So I'm really interested in seeing how players like Evan Lewis, you know, how they get on, what their form looks like as we come into the World Cup period. You know, Shimon Hetmeyer playing a great innings this afternoon. You know,
I just want to taste Angostura Chill.
Yeah, whilst riding around on a Hero motorbike and all of that.
But I think we got a couple of weeks left of this before we get into the business end of the tournament.
Yeah, as you'd expect from a tournament that is slightly mad. Their final is on a Wednesday.
Fair enough.
I think it's the Wednesday the 18th. There you go. That was the one I was thinking of when I said that. But they're playing on Wednesday 18th. And then thereafter, we're back into the IPL.
Indeed. Who can escape the IPL?
We won't ruin ourselves on that now. We will get to that in time. The other white ball cricket of note this week was Ireland-Zimbabwe have played their first 2 T20 internationals. The first game was a great one. Won by the Zimbabweans. So keep an eye out for them. I think they are a strongly improving international team.
They are, although they succumbed today by 7 wickets. So, you know, but I mean, it's very important because a lot of these games counts as qualification points, right, for the next T20 World Cup. So, you know, important matches. And I think Paul Sterling got a few runs today, as did Kevin O'Brien in a fairly comfortable run chase in the end for the Irish.
It was, and Kevin O'Brien, Lord knows he needs some runs. He's really out of form. So keep an eye on that. I think they've got one more game, and then the Zimbabwean team over to Scotland. I don't know if I'm going to pop over and watch them at some point, but who knows? Never say never. So plenty more cricket this week. Clearly the county championship is back on, and that's red ball, so we might not cover that as much. And we've done quite well to talk there for 24 minutes, I think, without mentioning a test match.
Indeed, what a game that was.
Yeah.
The Indian batters getting themselves in the mood for 2-hour cricket.
Yeah.
You were talking about the IPL returning. It was very much an IPL innings from Rishabh Pant on Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think it remains a series of contrasts, let's call it that, between the form of 2 teams and indeed 11 players on each of the 2 teams. You can't really say what's going to happen in the next match at all, unless you care to do so now.
No, I think the interesting thing about the series is that there's been quite a few days where both teams have played well. So like Friday, it was like a classic example of when Pujara and Kohli had that stand and England bowled very well at them, and it was edge of the seat stuff. But then on Saturday, India were as bad as England had been the week before at Lords, completely capitulating in a situation where you didn't necessarily think they were going to go on and save or win the game, but you thought they would at least take it into the 5th day. So the question is the Oval, like who's going to maintain test level cricket for the full 5 days?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what the Indians did cost me was my afternoon of watching the cricket. So I had to go and mow the lawn and do some chores. So no forgiveness for them. We will see how that goes. Okay, Rich, that's a quick canter through the world of white ball. I dare say we'll be back with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever there's white ball cricket around the world, we will be back here. As long as people are interested, do drop us a like or subscribe or a comment, and please join in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Throw the questions in, and I'm sure we will absolutely do our best to address it. It's been a pleasure, Rich. Thank you very much, and have a great week.
Cheers.